Hi, we're here for our second podcast, video podcast on the Tao Te Ching, the second chapter. We are two generations, one microphone, and zero filters. I'm Megan. This is my mom.
Marsha.
And we're going to go ahead and talk about that second chapter. She's going to
Yeah.
go ahead and read it.
Okay. And so then I'm using, and some of you probably use this technology, but for this, there are other things that I read and study about it, but Chat GPT, always have a hard time remember those letters. But anyway, and it explores, chapter 2 explores the complementary nature of opposites and the interconnectedness of all things. So, one interpretation, when people see some things as beautiful and then other things ugly, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. And so that's kind of like the whole focus of this chapter. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Difficult and easy support each other, long and short define each other, high and low depend on each other, and so forth. Therefore, the wise person, and this is the part that when Megan and I were talking, when you and me were talking about this the other day, we were saying, wrapping our brain around what this really means, this part. The wise person acts without action and teaches without speaking. They let all things come and go in their natural state, and thus everything finds its place. Right now, reading this, the thought of us talking last time about the river flowing. So, thinking about things coming in their natural state and everything finds its place. And then when we were first talking about the second chapter and that it means opposites, the simple word is opposites, we kind of brainstormed some words like homeostasis and dualism.
And duality for sure. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yin yang. So this chapter highlights the duality of the world, suggests that opposites, beauty and ugliness, for example, good and bad, are interdependent and each defines the other. So the key to wisdom is to recognize this interdependence and live in harmony with it. Don't fight against it. And effortless action. So that
Man, what
was
a
what
really
was
different way to think about things, though, right? What a really different way it is. So no, we were talking on the phone a little bit earlier. We're not new to the idea of duality, and um, a lot of Eastern religions are based on this duality type thing, that there's a balance with it. But I know that, our history is with the Western Christianity. And so when we started talking about this on the phone, some Bible verses popped up into my head. And I know the one that I write this all the time on Reddit.
yeah.
But it pops in my head, God is no respecter of persons is the first one that pops up in my head. And that's hard to understand necessarily, but if God is the force, God is equally the force of all, there's my nails, man, of all sides, good and evil. And it really makes sense of those Old Testament verses where we couldn't grasp what was going on. Like the conundrum of Job, or like the idea of no, you're fine. The idea of the old God being different than the new God. And so like this makes sense with these verses. And so I do have some of them written down somewhere. Oh no, it's on my chat GPT.
Okay. So here we
And
go.
I know people have strong feelings about Chat GPT. We could talk about that another day, but frankly, I really like that it can pull up things very fast when I need it. But one of the verses that was really hard to think about is Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and I create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. There's like no way to get around that without a dualistic perspective.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, it's just there.
I don't even remember how I used to figure that out. And then Job, you know how much I love to think about Job, like every day, all many years.
Yeah.
Go, what is going on with Job? Everything's with Job.
Yeah.
Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? And all this, Job did not sin in what he said. So Job didn't sin when he said, should we not accept good from God and trouble from God? But it makes us see God in a very different way. So then, who is God?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And God is everything.
Well,
And
we have to think that. We have to think, wait a minute, because we're going back to the first chapter of the Tao. God is an animating force. But I
mhm.
even hesitate to say that, an animating force, because that's only the moving, then it's not the cup. But I don't believe that either. I think it's all.
Well, that cup's made out of moving things.
I know. We're getting quantumy. No,
Uh,
not just
yeah.
quantumy, but science, like factual.
Yes.
Yeah, like what is not oscillating? So if God is everything, then it can't be a person.
Yes, yes, and that is so hard for many people to think about it. It's like they can't let their minds think that way.
Yeah.
It's like they're scared to let their minds think that way. You mean you can't say that God is not a he?
Yeah,
That's for
even that literally a
for
he.
example, yeah.
Like literally she versus
Because
he, there's
when
some
you
people
say
that have that problem.
God is everything, then that means God is everything. Um,
It's the
and so,
force.
and there should
Not
be
the force.
not that.
Not Star Wars force. But I mean, okay, Star Wars and Dune, they're based on this too, that there is an underlying force to everything, and that it is no respecter of who you are. You can use that force for good or evil, and then it's up to us to decide how we want to do that, how we want to participate in that. And then I'll back up. You remember when I was talking about my
Mhm,
artwork, and how I kind of thought about this stuff before I even knew I was thinking about it because I was so into the negative and the positive space being balanced in all my artwork. And so I did plasma cutting with metal art. And so I would cut out and then leave a part. And it had to be balanced. Otherwise, if it's not balanced, the whole thing will just go and it'd be an ex metal explosion, you know? But that balance was so important for the beauty of the entire piece. It
mhm,
wasn't like adding on to with clay or something like that, or adding on with paint. It was the balance between the negative and the positive space. I don't know. That really spoke to me at that time. Sorry.
mhm. And so probably when you were drawing your designs with those thoughts in your mind, you probably kind of had some peace when you started cutting it and started, perhaps, I don't know,
No, I
but
did. I had a
yeah,
lot of peace.
when you started cutting away and then seeing the parts that were left and then go to the next section that you were going to work on. And I can imagine, and so that you found some peace. I guess I'm thinking about Lao and him walking in nature. I guess I just keep visualizing that in my mind.
I'm sure he did.
And having that feeling that you were feeling while you were doing that, that very same feeling of contentment and peace. And when you create, and I guess now I'm thinking about, well, okay, God creates, there's reasons why, um, is probably because of
Contentment,
that, yeah,
expression. But I remember to hammer home on the art, but it was I had a reason. I didn't understand the deeper reason of why I wanted the negative space to be just as beautiful as the positive. So I wasn't cutting away to reveal something. I wasn't
mhm,
cutting away to reveal the true pieces left over, like both sides. If we had reversed the image, it would have looked just as visually pleasing because you need both sides of the for awareness. So like, and I sometimes I don't think this is absolute, you know, that we need to have the dark to see the light
mhm,
necessarily. I'm not sure it's absolute. I used to think so. I'm not sure. I have some little, I'm not sure. But for us to appreciate love, you have to have some loss or fear of loss. Or for you to appreciate beauty, you have to maybe, I don't know, for you to appreciate a cupcake, you have to have eaten some pretty bad stuff, right? Like I appreciate, we talked about that this morning. Mhm. I appreciate cupcakes that are really good, like so much, because I've eaten some really bad plant-based cupcakes or ones that smelled like smoke
right. We were talking about earlier
from the gas station.
that when people smoked in there a lot.
Not recently, but it makes you go, man, this is a good cupcake.
Mhm.
And so in life, we have to take both the good with the bad. Like in Job, Job talks about that. We could have a whole talk on Job, but like I think of my own life. I'll talk about my first marriage. How about my first marriage? Is that okay? Is that okay, Mom? Thumbs up. Mhm. My first marriage, I was super young. I was a teenager. Um, but if I had not gone through that, if I had not gone through that difficult situation where I was on the receiving end of things that I did not deserve, like I was a really not whatever good person. Like I was a good person. Like I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything. Like I hadn't even had enough life yet. Sorry, go ahead.
I said, and that's true, everybody. But anyway, I just,
I was like kind of neurotic about it, being a
yeah,
good person as a
innocent,
child. Well,
innocent too.
I was just really afraid of going to hell. So
Yeah,
I
I know.
took it serious, man. That's why I got married.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
very seriously.
But if I had not gone through that situation with, that young marriage that became so intolerable, I would not have, sorry, it keeps cutting off your voice. I would not have grown at all. And I probably wouldn't have left or sought anything else. I would have been fine where I was, but I couldn't have helped anybody.
Hmm. Yeah. So part of that pathway, either you could have hung on to that branch and be whammeled by
Yeah,
the
I could
wave
have. Yeah,
forever and ever and ever, which you couldn't. The waves would have beat you up until you were dead.
yeah, that's where we were going.
Yeah. And so
That
take
was
what
where
you
we
want
were going.
from that, everybody. But anyway, so you had to let go,
I
you
had to
know.
let go, but I had to let go with knowing that I would be letting go of an entire belief system
Yeah.
because it flew in the face of the belief system that we had.
And so, that's when my eyes really got opened up
Yeah, and that's what started our journey probably.
big in a big way. Yeah.
Because
Took
when we had to go, wait a minute, here are the rules. Here are the rules. The rules do not fit right now. What do we do?
And then piecing together of, well, who is God and what does God want for us? And really reading the messages wherever they were. And I know my prayer during those times was, God, guide me in the direction you would have me go. That, of course, I was still being literal and trying to think within that box of that religious way of thinking, but guide my feet in the direction. That was my prayer when I would go walk in nature. So here we are.
But you know what? None of those
That's
prayers went unanswered. That's the magic of it. It just may not be the way you want it.
exactly because it's not easy.
So God did guide your feet where you needed to go. It just may have been outside of the path that you wanted to be on, and you're going, no,
Outside the
not in the woods. No,
outs- outside the comfortable path,
no,
because a lot of it has not been comfortable. Of well, we've talked before, we lost people.
Well, broad is the way. No. What does it say? Broad is the way,
Narrow is the path.
and straight and narrow, whatever. I don't,
Okay.
I love though. Well, but now it's true. Okay. We're not condemning anybody because nobody's being condemned. That's the joy of this.
Yes, and they have their own journey and paths, and the reasons they have their own reasons.
And
And
there's this way of thinking, there's no condemnation because there's no judgment
yes,
except your own.
yeah, yeah,
And so if you would like to live a life full of love and peace because you prefer love and peace, do it.
yeah.
And if you would like to be a nasty human and not, you're free to do that too. And we see that happen on the news.
I guess yes.
Okay, the news since the beginning of time. There have been some people, we can name them.
I know, and I'm throwing something in here that keeps popping in my mind right now that I want to say out loud, which is not major, but I just want to say because this chapter of the Tao was talking about opposites and that all opposites are there and they actually work toward the whole.
Yeah.
And so then this kind of comes to why do good people suffer? That's been one of the biggest questions that people have posed forever too. Why do bad things happen to good people? Or whatever. And this, you know, that's one of the hardest things in this life to come to terms with as a human, as as
Yeah.
an animal, an animal in
Human
human.
body. Mhm.
Yeah. And so, in a way, it kind of when you think about that, there's more than just this. That it's not just this space and time. That there's more than just this, and there's a bigger picture. And I'm not just, and it's much more than just something called heaven or the other place that people like to talk about. It's about it's beyond it's beyond the human body. It's beyond, it's the spirit, it's the awareness, and that there's more, and there is some freedom in that beyond human suffering and pain, I suppose. As I'm sitting here in my comfortable house in my comfortable clothes, just got finished filling my tummy with food, you know.
But it is in the now too, though. It is in the now. It's in the now, in the presence. We're not waiting for somewhere necessarily. We're not waiting for somewhere. We're in the now. Heaven is reachable now, and that's a whole thing because it's a mindset. It's a
Yeah.
freedom of mindset. I lost my train of thought I was going to say. No, that's fine. Oh, you were saying that, like on the grand scale, all things are working. What does it say in the Tao? I just read it. Anyway,
Oh, look
but in the
that up.
Bible, all things are working. What does it say?
I
Good.
don't know. I'm gonna, one of these days I'm gonna take a minute to actually look that up, my quick
We
recall.
are good, but our quick recall is not to fundamentalist level today. Mhm. Um, yeah, what is it? All things, someone write that down.
Yeah.
Whatever. And we can look it up. All things are working for the good of them who believe, pretty much is the gist of that. Um, yeah, so there is a homeostasis going on
Mhm.
that all things are working out. So that means we can let go and stop trying to control it externally and trust that there is a great balancing, a balancing that lasts beyond our lifetimes, even. If we are unable to see that in our life, with maybe some horrible things are going on, like even the Holocaust. I'm sure that was a time when people felt very
Mhm.
lost and saw no hope. There are great balances going on beyond, and it might even be beyond human. Oh, like I know what human is, but we're in a body, we're in a flesh body. The balancing is involving everything.
Yeah.
Um,
It's hard to think of when you think of your own body and your
I know,
own
I know,
feelings and your own pain receptors or whatever it is. That's the part that it's
but it,
hard to think of the bigger picture, that there is a bigger picture, accepting it. I'm just saying when you're
yeah,
in your own ego, there's that word, whatever.
right.
When you're in your,
Yeah, and if you completely drop all ego, then we couldn't even be having this talk, honestly. So I guess we need to hang on to some ego so that we can,
so I guess that probably is one of the dualisms.
yeah, participate in this if we want to. Otherwise, we might go.
Our ego versus our spiritual self, our awareness self that we know we're right straight from God.
Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. You're going to get on me.
I don't know.
You ready?
What have I gotten on you? It's
No,
been,
you'll laugh. So the body. So if we're the body, right? And we talk about this grand balancing. Oh, you found it? What is
yeah.
it?
No, go ahead with your
Okay.
thought.
The grand balancing of this. If we're all part of the body, right? We're all part of the body. So somebody over here's fingernail and somebody over here's a nose and somebody over here's a hand. They're all balancing to be part of the body. If we severed a hand, that hand does not continue functioning by itself. Okay? And we can't cut ourselves off from God no matter what we do. We cannot cut ourselves off from the source. There is literally no way, and I know that's very opposite than what I grew up believing, to cut yourself off. There's no way except for you blinding yourself and turning your own back to the,
Mm-hmm.
the awareness. And
Yeah.
so, like when Jesus was on the cross and said, see, this isn't as funny as we thought. I had that other thought, but I left it. I might bring it up in a minute. When Jesus was on the cross and said, um, you know, Why have you forsaken me? Why have you forsaken me? Of course, if we think of Jesus as an analogy for all of our lives and all of our journeys, and whether he's literal or not, he went through the same situations we do. That was a separation because he couldn't see God. He was so full of fear in that moment that that cloud was still there. He didn't see himself face to face in the glass yet. It was still the cloud was still between, and he said, "Why have you forsaken me?" Well, God
Mhm.
didn't go anywhere. So when that was lifted, when he died, when his ego died, he had
Mhm.
full awareness. He could see face to face who he was. Um,
There's peace in that. That's where we're supposed to find peace in that
I know. But
story.
that wasn't peaceful for me as a child. And I
No,
wanted to talk about the uncomely parts, but I didn't.
and then I was thinking of myself, and then there the if the whole is the whole body, and there and all the parts work toward the good, then there are some uncomely parts, I guess is that.
Uncomely parts. And if you know what uncomely means, you know what it means.
So let me
But they're
read
still
this.
important. We still need a way to rid our body of waste.
Okay, she got to the
I
point.
had to say it. Go ahead.
See, I guess I did get on you a little bit.
This is how we talk.
And usually we really, yeah. So Romans 8:28 says, we didn't know we were going to be doing, Bible, but it's still,
It's
you
the
know,
flow. I think it's important because that's our history where we came from. It could be the Bible, it could be the Tao, it could be a Spider-Man comic that says, with great knowledge comes great responsibility. That's from Spider-Man.
anyway, says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
Yes, but the key there is for those who love him. So there's an awareness of
Oh,
choosing to love.
yeah, yeah.
So you can be aware of being in the river and flowing, or you can be smacking around and it might not work so good. I don't know. I'm just hype.
Well, then Jesus saying, seek and you'll find.
Okay. So if you pray with awareness that you may get what you want.
Yes.
Because God, which is everything and in all and in us and is us, hears you saying, please let me have further understanding. I would love to understand better.
Yeah.
But you may understand yourself out of your current situations.
Yeah, things may be there may be some challenges,
Mhm.
a change in thinking. I know I was trying to read, let's see. This verse expresses the idea that everything, even challenges or struggles, work together for the good of those who follow, well, there we go, but follow God's will and live according to his purpose. But anyway, mm, that's everybody. In my opinion, that's everybody.
That is everybody. I agree with that. I like
Oh,
this. Oh, go ahead.
okay.
No, I was looking back at the very beginning here of the Tao Te Ching chapter 2 when it says I think it's important that we notice what it says here. It says, when people see some things as good, other things become bad. Or when people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. It's your perception of it's your perception. So
Of
it's not
good.
like the water bottle exists as good or bad. It's when you see it as good or bad that
Mhm.
causes other things to not be what you see. So this is hard.
Mhm.
So this brand water bottle, if we labeled it as an evil brand or something like that, or maybe has bad plastics in there or something.
Plastic.
Yeah,
And
and I know I'm drinking plastics. They're
yeah.
in there. That labels other things as good alternatives immediately by the labeling.
Our thoughts and our thoughts become things. I guess
Oh,
that little saying, of
our thoughts become things and our labels become cages
mm,
of concepts because words are powerful.
words are powerful.
Because,
Why you do this, a lot of the things that you do.
well, no, I was thinking because in the beginning
Oh, well, okay.
was the word. I can't help it. It just goes. No, but really. And that so everything was spoken into existence by a word. And it's important the story of Adam and Eve, they named things, or I guess Adam did. I'm not sure if Eve did or not. Don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to go look again, and which is okay.
But the naming of things
Yes.
is
Adam.
important. And then I know whenever you start, neither one of us are really bilingual people, but we languages have been in our lives and we're around bilingualism a lot, more than average probably here in the US. Um, when you have certain different languages, give different definitions to concepts. And that blows my mind all the time. Blows my
Yes.
mind all the time. Like even something so basic that is so basic, but like sin, the word sin, we know Latin and Greek root words, we know stuff, but when the word sin comes up, and when you're talking about the root word means like without,
Which is very
the
different.
absence of something, it just makes so much more sense than like sin as a not a lack of, but as something you do.
As a personality flaw
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, it's just interesting. So language in its own is, it fails. And I guess that's the first chapter of the Tao. Mm,
Mhm.
yeah. Um,
I don't know how much time we have or where we're going. How much time do we have?
we have about 10 minutes.
Oh, we're doing good then.
Yeah.
I know one thing that I was just I just wanted you to read Ecclesiastes if you had that one
I
because
don't
it's
have it up, but I know we could sing the song. No, I'm just
and I
Louis season turned around. No, but there's a time and a place to everything under heaven, right?
look it up, everybody. It's really good. It's Ecclesiastes.
How about I just look it up on my chat GPT? Mhm.
Okay.
We are getting lazy because we aren't doing
Maybe so. That's
me
why,
flipping anymore and going, I can flip to Ecclesiastes faster than you.
right? I know that was kind of like we did not have Bible verse rodeos where I grew up and where she grew up like they do.
Verse rodeos. No, we
But
didn't.
anyway,
But it was an unspoken excitement during a very
I'm
long
sorry.
sermon to see who could get there the fastest, silently.
Yeah, silently. And for young females sitting there, it would be like, hey, I beat the guy over there.
Yep, that was exactly the feeling I had. So this is the NIV version, which you may have feelings about or not, but I don't have any feelings any longer.
Don't have-
Mhm.
Mhm.
But
Some of some don't, but okay.
there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and time for peace. And I don't know if there's anything else that could possibly parallel so well with the Tao than that.
And I was thinking that you're this Lao person or whatever that walked around the woods and come up with all these ideas was before this was written.
Yeah. Yes. So it's very likely that these things were
Well,
out there. Or
yeah,
just being out there and the general knowledge before Jesus was born. Of
there,
course they
and
were.
there is the can't think of the words right now that's exact in the scripture, but the not gospel, but maybe I'll say this the gospel that's written in their hearts, but it wasn't gospel.
Oh, but that's true too, though. It is.
Each and every person
The word,
has the the
ability,
yeah
the same
awareness.
ability to pull ideas out of the river, to yank them out of the river. Yeah, the
It's there
clock
in our heart.
consciousness. Yeah. And so when
And
I was saying about Spider-Man, the comic, I wasn't joking. I mean, for people that get really into those movies even and stuff, but the multiverse and all that, I mean, there's some deep stuff in there. And you can find wisdom when you need to through any means, even if you are in the Amazon by yourself with a tribe of 10 people.
mhm, I believe all those people had it written in their heart. There is
Thank you.
a way that God wants us to go is written in their hearts, and yeah. Anyway, it's so hard.
It's
So,
hard. It's hard because you understand what it's like to feel the other way and you have empathy.
mhm,
So like we talked about this earlier and we wanted to do these videos because we want other people to know that there are other people out there who have these questions.
uh-huh,
That there's no judgment about it and we're not saying this is the right way you need to do this. By no means. Like
mhm,
use the Bible, don't use the Bible. Be an atheist, don't be an atheist. Use the Tao Te Ching, don't. It has nothing to do with it. I just want to do with anything. I just want people to have peace and to
mhm,
know that there are other people who look like us
mhm.
who might I'm concerned about my makeup now and trends I saw online. This is a tangent. That there
Oh,
apparently is Republican makeup. I don't know. Do I have Republican makeup on accident? I'm not sure. And I'm not necessarily one way or the other, but I don't know if I have the makeup style. Mhm. But
we're Southern, so
that's what I mean. I thought, oh no, is it the wrong makeup? Anyway, someone help me. But there are other people that look like us and act like us and have jobs like us in humanities. And you're a teacher, and I've worked in schools, and we do these things, and you still have these thoughts, and that's
and we,
okay.
and we picked the towel or whatever. Well, for one thing, I mentioned last time, it's brought me a lot of peace when I read that up at your house. And, but as just a structure, as just
Mhm.
uh,
A sounding board,
mm,
a jumping.
to, and hopefully other people will be able to find, we are communicating this out there in the world, and that there will be people who will, might have similar thoughts, and that would be encouraging to us as well.
Yeah, that it resonates.
It is kind of sometimes a lonely journey when you've branched out
It is a
or
lonely journey, and
broken off.
we've been
Or
lucky to have each other, but we haven't had each other at the whole time. This has been a 20-year journey. Yeah. Mhm. So, so you're saying you hope that, if it resonates with anybody, that'd be great if somebody could let us know instead of us just speaking into the void.
yeah, that would be good.
Um, but we were thinking, like, are there any questions we want people? Mainly that.
Hmm.
Does anybody else think these things? That's my question. You look at your neighbors and you assume everybody doesn't, but maybe everybody does. I don't know.
And I know sometimes when, my retirement, which was a couple of years ago, and that was hard because I left my tribe of people. And then I had to go out into the void, I guess, and try to make new friendships. And it's been, and and these are casual friendships, but new friendships. And to hear, for me, it's just been very eye-opening that some of these thoughts, there are people out there, I haven't gotten in deep conversations, but out there who do have similar thoughts with
Yeah.
some of the stuff that you and I have been talking about over these years. And I know there's probably more people
Yeah.
too.
And if it brings peace, then I'm all for it. Because
Yeah.
this does bring peace. This has brought peace to me that I did not find in any other possible way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I have one. If are you at a
Go
little
ahead.
gap?
Yeah, we've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
So one thing, because I'm just driven this way, but I have been reading, opened up again, and I'll just show it again. But it's called the Ragamuffin Gospel,
It's fine.
written by
Go ahead.
Brennan. I'm sorry, and I'm not advertising the book. However, that was one of the first books, and Megan told me about
I
Brennan
forgot about it
Manning,
completely. I completely forgot about that book.
and that I read that gave me some peace because it was kind of like this opposites thing that we're talking about, some of the perspectives. And one of them is the person who wrote the foreword. After he read the book, he said he discovered how little he had to do to deserve and receive the love of God, and even more than he imagined. He said, suddenly, instead of fearing and denying all of my real or imagined shortcomings, I could embrace my humanness. I could see God pursuing me through it, and in spite of it, God pursues his raggedy creation. That's his words. But anyway, so then he referred to Romans 6:15, which says something like sin more so grace can abound more, because people always say about that, so does that mean you go out and you do sin and do everything that you really want to do that's badly wrong and God gives you more grace? But that's not what it means. Grace abounded more because I could find it in the darkness as much as in the
Mhm.
light. Because
Duality.
so
You can
I
see it. Mhm. Yeah,
I
that
know.
little bitty light. Sorry.
Yeah, go
That little bitty
ahead.
light in the cave. That little bitty light in Mammoth Cave, when you strike that match, it's such a more powerful light inside.
That's fair. I like that.
That's it. So sometimes, unless you're in the worst of situations because you're not paying attention and you need to be dragged down the stream by a bunch of sticks and rocks and mud and floating people's stuff smacking you in the face. I don't know. You really can't see. You just can't see the light unless, you have to have stark differences for some of us. And I had to have some pretty stark differences over and over.
Me too.
All right, we got to go. So that's it.